Thanks so much for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham. A blast of Arctic air is plunging temperatures across the eastern U.S. The plains and Great Lakes already saw the cold wave come through Monday. Now a second, even colder air mass is sweeping through. Forecasters say it will stick around until Thursday, dropping temperatures 10 to 35 degrees below average. Our Caitlin Burke has more.
Much of the nation today is being told to stay home. Extreme cold and blinding snow resulting in deadly conditions.
It was just the visibility that was really bad. You had to go by the markers. You could barely see the exit signs.
It's the coldest air of the season so far, triggering concerns about frostbite, closing schools, and sending wind chills plummeting. In Wisconsin, at least 2 people are dead from exposure to the cold, and more than 30 school districts are closed.
We have to take each one of them independently because we do have the student safety in mind first and foremost. So if the temperatures are such that we need to cancel school, we're going to cancel school.
In Minneapolis, it feels like negative 30 degrees. At that temperature, frostbite can occur in as little as 10 minutes.
There really is no time to spare. If you're not dressed appropriately and the temperature is low and there's a huge amount of wind, your body temperature will drop and you could get frostbite and hypothermia.
Chicago firefighters are battling frozen fire hydrants. Crews there are out in force to keep them clear. The wind chill there making it feel like 20 degrees below zero. Up to 2 feet of snow is expected from the Great Lakes to western New York, and there's no relief in sight. Forecasters say temperatures will remain well below normal for the rest of the week. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Former CBS News investigative reporter Sharyl Attisson says she's filed a lawsuit against the Obama Justice Department over the hacking of our computer. Attisson is formally accusing the administration of unauthorized and illegal surveillance of computers and phones. She says the intrusion began when she was investigating the Fast and Furious gunwalking scandal and the terrorist attacks on the American embassy in Benghazi. The Senate Oversight Report says Homeland Security is failing in its key missions, including protecting America's border and internet security. The report came from the staff of the Homeland Security Committee under Senator Tom Coburn. It says 700 miles of the southern border is still unsecured. The department also has problems protecting itself from online attacks, even though it's supposed to protect the country from them. The department responded by saying it's made progress in the last year to improve Homeland Security. The 114th Congress begins today, and there is a new sheriff in town. Republicans now control both the Senate and the House. CBN's David Brody takes a look at how the battle is shaping up between the GOP and the White House.
Slow and steady, those are the words you'll hear often from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, who say that after the GOP's tidal wave in November, they will work with President Obama when they can, but they're also eager and determined to dismantle much of his liberal agenda.
Of course, we're so eager, we'd love to go for the whole enchilada, if you will. I think what you're going to do is see us be smart about it and go after some of the components that need to be dealt with first.
Those components include passing a bill this week that would finally start building the XL Keystone Pipeline. Republicans say it's a job creator. Liberals call it an environment killer. Republicans also plan to try and dismantle Obamacare piece by piece. Votes on that start this week, too.
We think it's a terrible piece of legislation. We're certainly going to be voting on that if we can put either repeal or take out pieces of it, like, destroying the 40-hour work week, the medical device tax, the individual mandate.
Republicans will also push to cut off funding so President Obama can implement his controversial executive order on illegal immigration. They'll also try to stop his plans for better relations with Cuba by going after the money that's allocated for it within the Department of Homeland Security. It's leaving the White House in a spot that they're not used to. For the president's first 6 years, he was setting the agenda. Now, he's having to play defense against the GOP's plans. Republicans are about to put the president on the spot. And Tennessee Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn tells CBN News that the new Republican majority will act. And after that, it's up to the president.
What we're committed to do is a right of center conservative agenda and move it forward, move it through both chambers, and then send it to the president's desk. Then he has the opportunity to decide whether to sign it or to veto it, send it back to us.
With the Republican Party expected to press and challenge the president on numerous issues, expect Barack Obama to get out the veto pen more often than not. In just the last 6 years, he's only vetoed 2 bills, but that is expected to change in a hurry. David Brody, CBN News on Capitol Hill.
Faculty at Harvard University are being given a dose of their own medicine in the form of higher health care costs. It's all thanks to Obamacare. Harvard healthcare experts advised the president, giving him ideas on making healthcare available to everyone. But the New York Times reports after Obamacare took effect, the faculty didn't want to pay for the costly changes. 2 months ago, they tried to block the higher costs being passed down from their employer. Now they're facing co-insurance payments and deductibles. And the reality of Obamacare is hitting home in this Ivy League institution, just like it's already done for many other Americans. Well, the plunge in oil prices is good news for drivers, but not for the stock market, which kicked off the week in a free fall. The Dow Jones dropping more than 300 points Monday, and today Asian markets are down too, falling for a second day in a row. With oil prices hitting a 6-year low at less than $50 a barrel, some traders are worried that's an indication of a weakening world economy. In Texas, a state driven largely by the oil industry, there are some concerns about how the falling trend of oil prices could impact the local economy.
We are going to see job losses in 2015. They're not going to be anywhere near what we saw in the Great Recession or what we saw in '86, but we will see job losses this year.
The low prices are good for refining oil along the Houston Ship Channel and Gulf Coast. A young sailor with the Christian organization Youth with a Mission has been missing since a boat capsized off Hawaii's Big Island. According to the Honolulu Star Advertiser, Aaron Bremner was preparing for a YWAM sailing voyage along the Pacific Islands to offer medical work, water purification systems, and Bibles to people in need. The 24-year-old was traveling with other sailors on a 75-foot sailboat off the Kona coast Friday in dangerous weather when large waves flipped the boat 2 or 3 times. The 4 other crew members escaped in a portable raft and made it to shore, but Bremner was sleeping in his berth and they could not get to him. The family of gospel legend Andre Crouch is asking for your prayers. The Grammy Award-winning singer went to the hospital Monday with serious health complications. His sister Sandra issued a news release saying her brother was in the hands of a wonderful medical team and thanked everyone for their prayers, but she did not specify what Crouch was battling. Crouch has been in the music industry for more than 4 decades and serves as co-pastor at New Christ Memorial Church in California. The flu season has been particularly strong so far this winter, and it's not even at its peak. Some people still haven't gotten that flu vaccine yet. But as Lori Johnson reports, there are some basic and natural ways to help guard against getting the flu in the first place.
This year, the flu season hit early, and it will likely last until April. According to the CDC, the best prevention is a flu shot. And it's still not too late to get one. While doctors tout the vaccine as the best flu prevention, there are other ways. Topping that list, washing your hands. But you have to do it right. Get a good lather going and keep it going 20 seconds, about as long as it takes to sing the happy birthday song twice. Rinse really well and dry with a clean towel. If there's no soap and water handy, hand sanitizers are a good substitute. Just make sure it's at least 60% alcohol and rub till your hands are dry. The flu virus can live on a hard surface for up to 2 days, so regularly disinfect all those things you might touch on a daily basis, like doorknobs, remote controls, refrigerator handles. Our bodies are designed to fight off viruses like the flu naturally, but the catch is you have to have a strong immune system. Do get at least 8 hours of sleep, drink lots of water, eat nutritious foods, and take supplements including fish oil, vitamin C and D, and also try the natural antibiotic virgin coconut oil. 1 tablespoon in the morning and at night should do it.
The coconut oil tends to keep the bacteria down so that if you're assaulted with the virus, your immune system can concentrate on the virus. It doesn't have to concentrate on 27 other bacteria that you may have been exposed to that day.
Don't eat food with a lot of sugar or trans fats. They can cause inflammation, which weakens your immune system. Stress will also do that, so keep it low with prayer and exercise. So avoid the flu by getting the vaccine, keeping yourself and your environment clean and your body strong. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
In other health news, a new study finds a link between red meat and various types of cancer. Researchers found red meat includes a sugar molecule that doesn't occur naturally in the body, so the immune system attacks it. That leads to inflammation, which can in turn lead to tumors. The lead doctor in the study from the University of California, San Diego, says the foreign chemical acts like pouring gasoline on a fire. It increases the risk of cancer, but doesn't necessarily cause it. The London Daily Mail reports he doesn't advise cutting out red meat completely, just cutting back on it. The World Cancer Research Fund advises a maximum of about a pound a week. That's about the size of a steak or a few cheeseburgers. Well, sugar may not be only making us fat. Research shows it could also be making us sick by leading to an increase in the risk factors for various diseases like diabetes, heart, and liver disease. The Chicago Tribune reports scientists at the University of California in San Francisco have launched a project to warn the public about the dangers of sugar added to food and drinks. Sugars have been added to a wide variety of food and drinks in the U.S., and so are other sweeteners, including some from corn. One scientist says dumping high fructose corn syrup into cheap foods, sodas, sports drinks, and energy drinks is toxic to the body, causing epidemic metabolic diseases and a serious health crisis. Still to come, it's a combination you don't see every day. A Pakistani Muslim who supports Israel will introduce you to a man whose life was changed after a visit to the Holy Land. Syrian refugees fleeing their country's civil war will soon be turned away from Lebanon. Lebanese security officials are putting a limit on the number of refugees allowed to enter the country. New unprecedented visa restrictions went into effect Monday, limiting the amount of time Syrians can stay. Officials say their tiny country simply cannot absorb any more refugees. Right now, an estimated 1.5 million Syrians are in Lebanon. That's about 1/4 of the entire population. The recent Israeli-Hamas war has sparked huge protest in Europe and exposed a growing epidemic of anti-Semitism. In an interview with CBN News before the current war, one British Muslim told us how he became a Zionist. John Wagi brings us his amazing story.
Qasim Hafiz is a Pakistani Muslim born, raised, and living in the UK.
As I was brought up around a lot of anti-Israel feeling, and especially for my dad, very blatant and direct Israel hatred and anti-Semitism.
As a university student, Hafiz campaigned against the Jewish state. He attended marches, handed out leaflets, and called for boycotts of Israel. He said he was even willing to die to free Palestine and rid the world of Israel.
My narrative was there was a Palestinian state, the Jews came from Europe, stole the land, and voila, Israel.
Then he found Alan Dershowitz's book, The Case for Israel, and decided to read it so he could refute what he thought was Zionist propaganda.
I thought I'll buy it and be able to disprove it because Israel has no case. I know the history, I'm an expert in it all. So I start reading this book. And the most basic of facts about Israel and the Jewish people, I had no clue about. I mean, one of the most basic ones I came across was a Palestinian state has never existed.
And that was just the beginning. 2 years later, he visited Israel.
When you go to passport control and they say, what is the purpose of your visit? Just say you're here for a holiday. Don't say, well, I used to be anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. Now I'm not quite sure, so I thought I'd come and see what it's like.
After 8 hours in airport security, Hafiz was allowed into Israel.
It highlighted Israel's unique security situation. Look, it's not politically correct to say this, it's not nice to say this, but people from my background, people with my kind of name, have an awful tendency of blowing stuff up in Israel. And also, I was treated with a lot of respect. You want to see racism? Go to Saudi Arabia as a non-Arab.
When Hafiz arrived in Jerusalem, he saw different ethnic and religious groups mixing in the city.
Be it Muslims, be it people from African heritage, be it Europeans, be it people from the Middle East, it's just such a crazy mix of people. And then you see the signs in English and Hebrew and Arabic, and it straight away blows away that idea of apartheid and racism.
Hafiz says Muslims refuse to accept Israel's existence in the middle of the Arab world. Then there are conspiracy theories and the pack mentality.
I mean, it's that kind of ingrained that there's this global conspiracy by the Jews to destroy Islam and take over the world, and it's really sad, but this whole anti-Israel cause has become very popular. It's seen as the cool cause almost, and nobody wants to kind of break off from the kind of pack and be seen as an outsider. I mean, for me, it was very difficult to go, okay, look, I was wrong. And I think that's a huge part of it.
To have a revelation about the Jews and Israel, Hafiz says the Muslims must embrace reality.
To actually step back and just look at the world, just think what you actually stand for. Is this irrational hatred over a group of myths that you've been told really worth it? And you've got to ask, do you really want peace? One of the most frustrating things for me is within the Muslim community, we have a double standard. We judge Israel and America by one standard, which we refuse to apply to ourselves.
Hafiz says his aha moment came at the Western Wall in Jerusalem.
I feel I'm very blessed to be where I am because it has changed my life for the better. You know, it's beautiful to wake up without this hatred, without this anger. Is it God? I don't know. Maybe.
John Waggy, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Up next, art for the soul, how one church is reaching creative hearts on a whole new level. Ten years ago, a woman in Boise, Idaho started an outreach to artists in her church. Today, that ministry has grown to include a studio and an art gallery. It draws hurting people from across the community who find healing through the fusion of art and faith. Charlene Aaron brings us this unique story.
Jessie Nilo has been a passionate artist for as long as she can remember. It's a love she longed to share with members of her Vineyard Boise church family.
Because I could never talk about God with my art friends, and I could never talk about art with my church friends.
So she began thinking about starting a ministry for fellow artists at her church, something she admits she knew very little about.
I honestly didn't know. Except that we could talk about things that were meaningful to us. That's really all I had. And maybe we could make some Sunday school posters or something.
Fast forward 10 years. Today, Nilo oversees Vine Arts at her church, a ministry complete with a studio and art gallery. Professional and amateur artists are encouraged to explore and develop their God-given creativity through workshops and other hands-on opportunities. This backdrop was painted by a group of the ministry's budding artists.
This is a place of safety, it's a place of spiritual growth, and Jesus is our focus. The Holy Spirit has infinite creativity, and we're tethered to His Spirit, and He's going to increase our creativity as individuals.
This art gallery located inside Vineyard Church highlights the work of artists from both inside and outside the church. Its purpose is to encourage people to reflect and contemplate about life and to worship God, the greatest creator of all. Sherry Cofield says the arts ministry helped her find healing from an abusive past. Today, she uses the same tools to help others heal.
For me, it became not about the art, but about the relationship and about love. And so there's something about doing art that really loosened these people up. And they would start talking about their lives and their problems, and then we can introduce the love thing, right? And so for me, now when I create, I'm more freer in my art, but I'm having a conversation with the Lord as I'm creating.
It's a real feeding ground for creativity, and people who are broken and shattered, whether they're dealing with depression or addictions or just grief, they find a lot of solace here, and they can find that healing. They have caring people that they can just spend some time with when they walk in.
Vine Arts includes photographers, painters, and more. The ministry was a big draw for Brad and Debbie Keith, who moved here from California just to take part. And while the big emphasis on the arts is what inspired them to come, they say the spiritual climate is what affected them most.
They have Bible studies in here, so this isn't necessarily just the arts.
When we got here and we met the people and saw so many creatives, we just felt at home. So we packed up everything and away we came. We've been happy since we've been here. We've been never looked back.
Nilo says the ministry also appeals to the unchurched, who are welcomed with love and no pressure.
A lot of times they'll end up, checking out the church and going deeper in that way with their discipleship. And it's okay if they don't too. They still have us, and who else is praying for those people?
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Boise, Idaho.
Created to worship Him with our gifts indeed. Stay with us. We're coming right back. CBN is reaching children with the gospel in Guatemala. CBN teams organize a Christmas Superbook event for more than 1,400 children in Zampango, one of the poorest communities in the highlands of Guatemala. Each child received a gift box with clothing, a hygiene item, a toy, and a snack. The children also met Gizmo and watched the first Christmas Superbook episode. After learning about the true meaning of Christmas, more than 400 children prayed to receive Jesus into their lives. Beautiful. Well, that is going to do it now for CBN News Today. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. If you want to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today, you can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Make it a terrific Tuesday, everybody.